Welcome back to Insight Club, and today we're talking about what is presence. Stay tuned.
The first rule of Insight Club is you don't talk about Insight Club. You do Insight Club. The second rule of Insight Club is the only assumptions we make about one another are that we all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. The third rule of Insight Club is you check all your other assumptions at the door. We hope these conversations will bring you insights that incite you to action. Welcome to Insight Club. Will you start us with the what you shared with me before we started recording that launched us into this question, what is presence? Because I think that's a good jumping off point about the eclipse energy.
Sure. So I was actually going through the movement of the eclipse energy, and I decided to do some rebirthing meditations, which is a Kundalini yoga set, to go through both my birthday and the eclipse energy. And I even brought this thing about how our subconscious brings what is similar to what we're experiencing. So like you experience something, then your subconscious brings something that it's similar, and you experienced anger when you had that, so you experience more anger, or you experienced fear or sadness, whatever it is, and then it brings more of that. So we end up always being in these cycles of what is pattern recognition. Well, our brain can recognize what it is. And to shift patterns, we need to do something completely different that the brain can't follow exactly what it is, right? And in magic, we can talk about that as well, like changing sides of things or like inverting things so that you can change a pattern. So I was caught up thinking of how many times do we get so into a problem, into a situation, and like ruminating over it, and we think we're present, but we're actually in a rabbit hole, in a loop cycle that it might not be presence at all. It might be just being stuck in the past because it is based on a past situation.
Yeah, that makes me think of when one person gets you like an owl figurine or a picture or something, and then it's in your space, and then other people are like, oh, she really likes owls, and then they start buying you owls, and before you know it, your space is filled with, like, owls is one in my family, but when I was a kid it was dinosaurs, like everything dinosaurs. But eventually your space becomes filled with that thing, and then at a certain point you can't distinguish, like, did they get these things for me because I like them, or do I like them because they got them for me? Because, I'm just like surrounded by them.
Yes. Yeah. And even if it is because I like them, how much of our identity is like just something that, I was always like this, so it just continues.
Yeah.
And we maybe are afraid of changing, but
Right.
inside we changed for a long time ago.
Yeah, we might not branch out because there's a lot of inertia, because then when we go to the store, our eye is drawn to more owls because that's the thing we're always surrounded by. And so we're always looking out for it. Yeah, so you framed it as we might be in a rabbit hole and we think we're present because we're really actively thinking about those thoughts. So I think about presence a lot when I go out for my morning walk, because depending on my state of mind, sometimes I notice a lot of the things around me. And sometimes I'm completely unaware, like I'll just like with driving, I'll get to a certain place in the walk and go like, oh, wow, I don't even remember getting here because I was present to what was going on in my head. and both feel like presence. You know, I'm actively engaged with something. I could describe to you what I've been doing in my head, but in one, it's like looking at the plants as I go by, and the other, it's following a train of thought. And the train of thought might actually be productive. I do a lot of brainstorming when I walk in the morning. So it's not simply rumination. I think we can
Yeah.
start to like winnow down. I think we all probably recognize when we're in rumination, that doesn't really feel present. Like I'm going around in the same thought loops. I'm mad at the same thing. I'm anxious about the same thing. We're like, okay, that one's probably not presence. But I mean, I write in my head when I walk. You know, I'm working on stories as and I'm really present to those so that when I come
That's
home, I
present.
can sit and, you know, type them out from what from the dots I connected while I was walking. And I feel like that's a kind of presence, but at the same time, you know, it wasn't really. I wouldn't be able to tell you how many other people I passed by on the trail, or, you know, things like that, or what color the the leaves were on that bush. So being present to things inside of us versus outside of us, there's
Mm.
something there. And then also present to emotions, because I play with my presence. And so sometimes I think, well, okay, I should be, you know, present to what's going on. I'm going to watch the things outside of me. And I might then be numb to my own feelings because I
Mm.
turn my presence outward. And then I could describe to you all the things I'm passing by and seeing, but I'm not checking in with myself, even not just emotionally, but like physically. You know, I'm like, oh wait, I just walked and I didn't feel the ground under my feet, or I wasn't paying attention
Mm.
to where my legs stiff or something like this. So I'm always playing with this question of what should I be present to?
I love how you brought all these different kinds of presence, and it sounds to me like you're relating presence with attention quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess
And
I
and
could
I
go
think it
deeper,
makes sense. Yes.
parse out what would you relate presence to?
Yeah, like in these ways, what are we putting our attention on? And that makes a lot of sense, because if we think of what we put our attention on is what we get more of, what we expand, what we yeah, what grows in our space, it is presence, right? The attention is the way we put our presence in something. When we pay attention to our body, we feel more of everything that our body is sensing. When we pay attention to the scenery when we are walking, or just like being there by nature, we're going to see the colors better, see, listen to the birds, uh, yeah, notice everything. When we really pay attention to a book, we enter the story. When we really pay attention to all the um, connections that our brain is making, creating a story, creating something, or in a meditation, everything gets a lot more clear and colorful, and yeah, we make all those connections. So yeah, I love the way you're putting it, because it is presence. We can be present to different things. When the first thing that I would think of presence would be really being in the now, as Eckhart Tolle would say as well. Like, so if we were thinking of things of the past, is not presence. And if we are thinking of the future, it's not presence either. If we're trying to control things that are going to happen in a minute or in a day, it's not presence. So it would be really being now. And the now can be reading a book, can be creating a story, can be channeling a song, can be looking at the scenery, can be talking with someone in that moment. So I think in different situations, we can all be present with different things, as long as we are in the now. And that's where the rumination that I meant, for example, it can't be, even though if it feels very present, it is present maybe with the emotions, if we allow ourselves to go into the emotion and not in the story. But as long as we're attached to the story, then it's not presence with the emotions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Um, there's an element of presence that seems like it wants to include feeling.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we go to, we've been talking about rumination. So if we go to ruminants, if we go to cows in the field, one might say they're very present for as much as we are guessing and, trying to know what's going inside of the mind of another species, right? But they're chewing the cud. They're not thinking about the past. They're not thinking about the present. They're not like, oh boy, Bessie took the best grass spot and I'm going to get her back for that. But would we, not just would we call that presence, would we aspire to that kind of presence? Like, is that the kind of presence Eckhart Tolle and others are inviting us to embody? Because there's okay, well, I'll just be very, speciesist about it. I'm making a judgment about the cattle. that there's a dullness there that's like, I'm chewing and I'm digesting and I'm going over here and I'm going over there. No, I mean, that's based on, again, a lot of assumptions. So even if that's not true for cows, let's just say there's a state where, because we humans can do that as well, right? We're just kind of zoning out, so when we're in meditation, we're being asked not to have all of our thoughts buzzing, but there are times when we don't have thoughts buzzing, but we're also not particularly present. Something that happens or that occurs to me, or situation, is like being on public transit, being on a bus or a train. I don't have to pay attention. I'm not driving. I'm not figuring out where we're going. And I just zone out. And it's almost like like putting a computer in sleep mode.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's like, well, I don't have all those thoughts racing, which is what we aim for by doing meditation. And, that's like, oh, I'm getting closer to presence, but I'm also missing some kind of shininess. There's just a dullness there. And that's why I brought up the cow in the field example. So it doesn't even have to be a cow in a field. It could just be Megan on a train. Megan, like, it's not a whole lot going on. That doesn't feel, even though it's not thinking about the future or thinking about the past, that doesn't really feel like presence to me. And so I wanted to keep narrowing in, like, there's something about feeling and there's something about being an active participant for me to want to call it presence. Is this anything sparking for you or resonating with you?
Yes. Not just being the observant.
Well, not being I don't know, not being passive. There's something, there's something active about presence, but I'm not sure how to name it.
I love that you brought the feeling, because that's something that I guess that's why we end up getting so much in these rabbit holes as well. We sometimes can't stand the apathy of like just being blank, like not having anything going on. It's just way too simple, way too, and it's so much easier to be present when it's something that engages our senses, engages our emotion. Like if you are in a, let's say, in a concert, either watching or singing, it's impossible not to be present in the moment. Well, it's not impossible.
Everybody's like this at concerts now. Everybody's just like this.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not impossible. People manage to like detach even these days. But yeah, I feel like when you are in something like this, it's more likely that you're going to be present, at least with your emotions in that moment. And unless you're overwhelmed, and then you try to like zone out because it's too much stimuli. So I'm when you brought the feeling, I was thinking maybe we zone out in two situations: when there's no feelings into that, like you're just in the bus or in the subway or whatever, and you don't have any emotions attachment to that particular situation. Is just trying to get from one place to the other. um or when it's too much
Yeah.
stimuli, then that you feel like you can't be there because it's just too much.
So are we kind of steering toward a baseline of presence is awareness of feelings in the body?
Yeah, maybe the ability to feel safe to feel in the body.
Yeah, like to just even occupy the moment we're in. Like
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm not dissociating, even if it's a kind of low level dissociation, zoning out. Um,
Yeah.
because there are times when, man, breathing feels like the most miraculous, amazing activity.
Mm.
Like just being present and feeling the breath traveling through my body, becoming
Yes.
aware of it, entering and exiting through my nostrils, and my lungs expanding. And I mean, I can make breathing a full body massage.
Yes. Me
And
too.
I love that, right? And that feels like a hallmark of presence.
Mm.
So if I'm trying to
Yeah.
sort out like what is presence and what's not, that one is like ding ding ding, circle it, highlight it. It's like,
Yeah.
and it is precisely feeling. And then what's starting to come clear is you were talking about these moments of either understimulation or overstimulation. And so what's coming for me is there are times when we stop being with, I was going to say processing, but I'm not sure that's the right word, but we stop being with the emotions in real time. And a lot of that is, I feel like they might be overwhelming and we're kind of saving them for later. Like the
Yeah.
person who's totally stressed at work and ends up at the end of the day, like carrying home a briefcase home of all the files and is like, I'll read them over dinner,
Yes.
I'll try to get this work done later. Right. And, that's a clear not being in presence for me is I'll just brush all of these emotions or feel even body sensations like into the for later pile, and I can't be with them in real time. So there's an element of presence for me that's I'm riding the feelings in real time. And as you were saying, then that would keep me out of the story. So, man, I've been feeling dull lately. And somebody asked, like, trying to help me figure out, like, what do you think that's? And I was like, what is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, do you know what it is? I haven't been dancing.
Yes.
I haven't just been putting on the music and moving in that luscious, expressive way that's just about climbing into the music and um, being a conduit for my emotions, like just letting the emotions move through me with dancing. And anytime I return to dancing, your songs are my go-to. It's like I have a playlist called Through, and it starts
Mm.
with Better, and it's like, okay, this is gonna just start moving me out of it, and then we move into Finite, and it's like, whoo, it's a no fail way to like move me into my feelings and move me into my body. And that's for me an immediate pullback into presence, because
Mm.
instead of going, I'll save the feelings for later, which I'm not doing consciously, that's just what's happening. I'll just sit here and do this mind work And then I'll pay attention to how I'm feeling later, including how I'm feeling in my body. And when I get up and I move and I dance, it's like, oh, this is presence because this is what's true in my being right now. And that's very different from like being in flow and writing.
Yeah.
Where I might be very present to the things flowing through me, but I might not realize like my foot is asleep or you know, so I think the feeling thing and the allowing the feelings to be there, to move through me in real time is like a real core part of this.
I feel you brought a really big thing in here, because in that sense, then flow might be that focused attention, but in order for it to be presence, the body, the mind, and the spirit need to be all in the same place.
That just gave me a moment of presence. Yes, I think so. I think so. Because I've also had, you know, I think we've all had the experience of doing something that's very physically exertive.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily present. In fact, maybe we're
Yeah,
trying to
the mind might be somewhere else.
Yeah, like we're in the middle of a particularly challenging Kundalini yoga kriya. and I'm just like, oh yeah, my mind has exited the building because my arms, I just want to put my arms down, right? Which is very different from when you stay fully engaged in it and then you're experiencing it and your arms are shaking, but you're just still there. And that's when, for me, the energy releases and it's like, oh, yeah. This is why we're doing this practice. So body, mind, and spirit being engaged is presence. Yeah. Why is this so important? I mean, I guess this is like a silly question in some ways, but
yeah, because that's when we really align and we get to collapse time, space. That's where we feel the most alive.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Which is another thing, like what is presence? It's really feeling alive in the moment.
I would say also aligned within our values, though, because you can feel aligned by doing a lot of cool drugs. You can feel, or not aligned, you can feel alive. Alive. Yeah. I mean, you can jump out of a plane. There are a lot of things we can do to elicit the, like intense breath work, but our mind is wandering and we're still, like in the feeling of, oh man, this is really, I'm really alive, but alive aligned with, I said values, that might not be the right word, but like higher wisdom,
yeah,
a feeling of who we truly are.
Yeah.
Not just the intensity. Oh, I wanted to go back to something. Moving it through presence. Oh, dang.
You talked about why this is important.
Yeah. But it was something at the beginning of the conversation.
The rumination.
Rumination. It's on the tip of my brain. It'll come back. Mind and spirit. So what if we keep exploring oh, I know what it was. Okay. This idea that our brain keeps bringing us the things from the default experience.
Yeah.
So if we've got kind of a definition of presence now where it's like body, mind, and spirit in awareness, in alignment with one another, how does that help us break through the default patterning where we find ourselves, the confirmation bias, we find ourselves just like our mind is continually bringing us more things that not only confirm what we believe about the world, but that also ignite the same feelings over and over again, because we've come to think of those we've come to think of feeling that way as our personality, really.
Yeah. I think this is the thing that I've been trying to move through the most, because I get to do all these practices that really bring me back to the presence and I feel aligned. And then there's these little things that bring um, those patterns, these confirmation biases, and so on, can already move me out of presence. And it might be because our mind is trying to predict uh, things that are unsafe so that we don't repeat them, and predict the future so we have some control over things that we actually have no control over. And so it is really a fear based thing, right? We can call it anything, but it is fear. Any form of control, any form of doubt, it's all rooted in fear. So we know that the opposite of fear is love. And so I guess the thing that can bring us back to presence is finding something that it's not obvious or not expected by our subconscious to pull us back into love. And it might be just putting our attention into something that is beautiful. It might be putting our attention into gratitude. It might be putting our attention into, I don't know, a song that brings us back to joy. But yeah, anything that can dance, like you said, like something that can make us laugh, can break the pattern in a moment where we are pulled back into the old patterns.
Yeah. I had a cool realization moment of insight the other day, and it was around, I guess, like breaking the pattern in the way that's most available. So what's the context that's needed? I think the context that's needed is my lifelong habit has been allowing people to invade my energy space. And my habit has been like leaning way too far back and then overcorrecting by leaning too far forward. And so what I mean in kind of like realistic terms, or just everyday terms, is like fawning, being very uncomfortable, but just giving my energy to somebody else. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Not having boundaries. And then afterwards feeling really violated, and I'll have a temper tantrum and I'll put my energy too far forward to overcorrect. Yeah. So that's been my pattern. And I was out walking yesterday because all my big life moments happen when I'm just walking up this hill by my house. And passed by somebody, and it's very friendly, it said hello. And then this guy just made a really like rude comment. And without thinking, I responded by basically yes-anding him. He said, "I see you out on the hill all the time. How do you wake up in the morning? How do you get out of the house? I bet your husband pushes you out of the house, doesn't he?" What a weird, rude comment. And without thinking about it, I said, "Yeah, he does. And he's got a whip and a morning star." And it was like this kind of yes and of, okay, sure, I'll go with that, right? And he walked away and was a little like, what just happened? And I felt my energy remain very intact, where it didn't lean too far back and go, I didn't also get defensive, like, what are you talking about? Wow, that's so rude. You don't even know me. How do you even know I have a husband, right? It's like, it was such a weird comment. But what was most accessible for me in that moment was cheekiness.
Yeah.
And I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, if I'm always in my life, like, I want to have a Buddha moment. I want to have a so you say moment. You know, I'm like, that's my life goal. I want to be able to, for things to happen. And I'm just like, so you say. And I was like, that was my so you say moment. But it came in a very different form than I was expecting. I thought when I had a so you say moment, I would be like, I'm calm like the Buddha, and I am, like, and no, I was sarcastic and cheeky. And I was thinking about it afterwards and going, that makes total sense to me because that's a big part of my personality. And so that's where I naturally found a groundedness and a centeredness. And in that moment, instead of reaching for how can I be perfectly calm and, in a meditative state, it was like, this is my natural way of cultivating an energy of presence.
Yeah.
Like, because with the energy backing up, as I was describing, that's dissociation. Like, I am a master dissociator. I just leave my body. Things get uncomfortable and I just check out. And, or like leaning the other way, and I'm not in presence because I'll just like go into a rage before I even know what's going on. Before I even know I'm speaking, I'm halfway through a diatribe. So those are both forms of like not being present. And this was a way of being present, responding in a way that like protected my energy, got this weirdo to leave me alone. And I was just struck by how what interrupted the pattern was very different in practice from what I would have thought it looked like if I would have planned out what would the Buddha do. The Buddha's gonna make a cheeky, sarcastic comment is what the Buddha's gonna do.
Because that was what present Megan would do and not what Buddha would do.
Yes, that's what present Megan would do, not overthinking Megan, not scared fawning Megan, not angry, diatribe Megan. Yeah.
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 And it was a unexpected
Yeah.
commentary. So it is breaking the pattern, right?
Yeah.
You didn't buy into the framing that he brought to you.
Although I mean, I kind of did. I was like, sure, let's go with what you're saying. Okay.
Kind of like improv. Like improv.
Yeah, exactly. The yes and, but also it makes me think of Aikido. Have you ever watched the martial art Aikido?
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is not unique to it.
Never
This is in a lot of martial arts, but one of the core principles is you use your opponent's energy to your advantage. So you don't try to stop, they come at you and you don't try to push back like this. You just help them fall in the direction they're already going.
Yes.
And it's just like very clean energy. It's just like, oh, you want to go that way? Cool. You're going that way, except now you're down on the floor and you're not a threat to me anymore.
Yeah, you're directing the energy.
Yeah, but using their momentum, and that has a lot of there's a lot for me in that metaphor, because it's like, I do want to get myself out of the way, but I don't need to come up against this. I don't need to control it or direct it. I'm just going to suggest you go over that way.
Yeah. And that's part of presence. Like, you're not controlling, like you said, you're not creating a resistance towards whatever is coming. You're accepting what's coming and just moving with it.
Yeah. For me, the yes and of improv really captures that. Like, okay, yeah, and also this. And that's all about not being able to control and not contradicting and just saying, I think there also, to our definition of presence, there's something to add in about acceptance
Hmm.
because if we see somebody who's in a state going, let's imagine somebody in a state of high anxiety, and they're just repeating again and again the thing that is the problem, or that they're feeling like is the problem. Like, oh my God, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, right? And then, like their body and their mind are both aligned in fear and anxiety. I don't know what their spirit is doing, but we probably wouldn't look at that and say that's presence.
Yes. But I want to come back to this with this that you just brought, because if we add acceptance to whatever is happening to it, now we can think of being present with the feelings in the right way as well. Because usually when we are in the feeling but in rumination, we are actually not accepting what happened. We are fighting and not wanting to feel what we're feeling, or not wanting what happened to have happened. We were wanting to change the situation. And if we bring acceptance, then we can, if it needs to move through the body, let it move through the body as well. Then we get to, even if we're feeling sad, even if we're feeling grief, if we're feeling anger, we get to accept that, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now, and this is what I am going to process. And then we get to free up the energy as it needs to be done, instead of resisting and not wanting to feel that.
Yeah. Being with, I'm sad, being with, I'm hurt, that is some of the most powerful alchemy I have ever experienced in my life.
Yeah.
And when I really feel that, then I get the contrast and go, oh, other times in my life where I've thought I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I've been in the language center of my brain going, I'm sad because, I'm hurt because, I'm angry because. And of course, it's always because of what somebody else did.
Yeah.
Um,
Which we can't control.
but when I stop it before it gets into the story and the language, and it's just, I'm so hurt. And I sit with that hurt, and I dance with that hurt, and I cry with that hurt, and I emote with that hurt. And I'm present to it, and accepting of it. Oh my God, that's cathartic, firstly, but also so spiritually significant. It is the ultimate presence.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is that, it's the awareness of, I'm accepting that this is the way I feel, and I'm not making meaning. Like, now is not the time for making meaning. Now is the time for just feeling it, and feeling it fully, and not saving it for later to
Yeah.
to think I'm going to do something with. When I save it for later to try to do something with, the thing I do is re-entrench the default thinking around it, re-entrench the story, re-entrench the identity. See, things like this are always happening to me. See, people are always doing this to me. That's what happens when you save up for later. It's like, let's don't make good leftovers.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a pretty darn good definition of presence.
I think so too. and, and not just the definition, like different types of presence within this context as well,
Yeah.
and levels.
My big insight is that presence has acceptance built into it.
Yes.
What's your big
Acceptance.
insight?
I would say yes, acceptance and alignment between body, mind, spirit, all of them in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
If one
is
of them is dissociating, flying somewhere else, then it's not presence.
mm. And then the value, I mean, it's clear from that the value of presence is a kind of cleaning out. Like, I'm feeling it, letting it move through me, and then saying, okay, and now what? Yes, and.
Yeah. And it puts us in a position where we get to choose our experience.
Say more.
Because if we're not dissociated, if we're not leaving our energy of our mind, our body, our spirit, are wanting to something to be different, which is the not acceptance. If we're not losing our energy in those things, if we have all our energy available right now and here, then we get to feel what we have to feel and also choose what we want to feel from this point. We have our energy available in the moment. And maybe that's why we feel alive, not necessarily because we're experiencing a huge thrill, it can be, but because we feel how it is to be ourselves whole, like embodied in that moment.
Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you. Maybe that's a powerful note to end on.
Yeah. And maybe that's why we sometimes do need to leave emotions to process in a different moment, because we might not be in a place where we get to collect all those things in the same place. Feeling safe in that moment is important as well, to be able to be fully present.
Yeah. Is there an insight action that comes for you from this?
Catching myself whenever not accepting something that's happening, like wanting something to be different, and seeing if I can come fully into presence and accept and feel everything that is in there in that moment.
That's the ultimate assignment.
Yes.
I'm gonna start smaller. I'm going to pay attention to when my body feels dull, because for me that's a sure sign I'm not in presence, and something that feels very approachable to practice. So it might be like, if I notice I'm dull, it might just be taking some intentional breaths and feeling my breath move through my body. It might be getting up and dancing, or just, going out and feeling the sun on my skin.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look for those moments of dullness and invite myself first back into my body, and then let the presence expand from there. Because I know for me, the physical is the gateway into
Me too.
the mental presence, the emotional presence, the spiritual presence.
Yeah. The physical and the sound, because for me sound is very physical.
Yeah.
Sound allows me to integrate the three parts. So yeah, that's a big one.
Beautiful. Yay. Well, we've got our assignments. Would love to hear from everybody watching what your big insight was, and what your insight action is. How will you allow these insights to incite you to action?
Yeah. Until next time, catch yourself dissociating and do something about it.
And come back to presence.
Come back to presence. Take care.